Okay, now hopefully that will be enough to have taken us into the live show. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Damage Report, a lockdown edition, where I am very excited to welcome back to the show after a break of about a week where we were all figuring things out, Emma Vigeland. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going well, I should say.
Yeah.
I hope that I successfully took all the broccoli pieces out of my teeth before we went live.
The important thing is that whether you got the broccoli out of your teeth or not, that you let people know that it was there recently.
Well,
That's the
I just
important
want
thing.
people to know that I'm self-aware in case, I'm 60% sure it's all out, but
Mhm.
there's a 40% chance that it's not, and we don't have the technology to detect that at this point.
Yeah, advanced mirror technology. We're hoping to get it out by Easter, though. That's something we're going to be talking about later. Welcome everyone who's already joining the stream. We appreciate you joining us here. We got a lot that we're going to be talking about through the course of like 50 to 60 minutes or so. The big bill that passed last night in the Senate, we're going to be breaking down some of the details. In that, we've got Donald Trump's plan to get things back on the right track by Easter, which is a very important day to him. He tells us, how is Trump doing through all this? What do the people think about his response? We got the latest from Joe Biden, which is going to be a doozy. You're going to want some coffee for that. But anyway, if you would like to chat with us, of course, do that as well. We're going to be reading some super chats. Hello to everyone who's saying hi. A lot of people saying hi to Emma. It's been a little bit since we had her on. And everyone, as always, two things I'm going to be telling you from here on out, basically. One, if you could like this video so that other people get access to the stream, that they know that it's there. And also, if you notice that the stream is very low quality, YouTube is switching over to default 480p. You can go and change that on the little gear thing, but you might have to do that starting very soon. So just bear that in mind. And with that, why don't we jump into it, Emma? What do you think?
Sounds great.
Okay. Last night, after multiple days of wrangling, the Senate has passed their version of the big relief bill, with a headline of it being $2 trillion, although that appears to hide more than it reveals. And that's just the Senate, bear in mind. The House is going to have to take this up, and so big changes could come. But Emma and I are going to break down some of what's in that bill, some of the big headline features of it. Don't worry about the water, Emma. It's quite all right. And so before we jump into the numbers, what's your initial reaction to what you're seeing so far from the Senate version of this bill?
So it's, I guess, marginally better than the insane GOP proposal that they tried to push through a few days ago. But what is frustrating, and Andrew Cuomo has been calling this out, which, I don't give credit to Andrew Cuomo a lot, but he's been a very visible voice during this time, perhaps the most visible Democratic voice, hint, hint, Joe Biden. And he has been saying that there's not enough money for state governments. And that's, I think, by design in many cases, because the Republicans are loath to give blue states like New York and California, who are going to be hit very hard by this. New York already is hit incredibly hard by this. That's why I'm in New Jersey, because I'm afraid to go back to Manhattan, to be honest with you. That I think that's, that they don't really care as much about what happens there. When it comes to red states, more rural states, they're okay with allocating kind of I'm not exactly sure how much money is allocated, if it's proportional or whatever, but my sense is that states like New York not getting enough money, they're okay with doing that kind of.
Yeah, and we saw as of at least a day or two ago that the Trump administration still hadn't made emergency funds available to Washington, New York, and California, the three states that have been hit the hardest, at least so far. But as to the Senate, why don't we jump into some of the details? There is a $500 billion loan program for businesses. Instead of giving the Trump administration broad discretion to make the loans, Schumer and Pelosi said there will likely be a new inspector general in the Treasury Department specifically to oversee these funds, as well as a congressional oversight panel to examine how the money is being used. That is designed to reassure us. I mean, the inspector general, okay, cool, and a congressional, panel that's going to convene to wonder why, I don't know, name a business, why they were given 20 billion extra dollars. They're going to ask some questions. It's going to be a news cycle for an hour. What is the money going to come back? Like, that does not reassure me. But I think that's what it was designed to do.
Well, it's supposedly marginally better than the Trump administration just being able to give out money to their buddies. But it's interesting. Some businesses are complaining, like Boeing. We're seeing that they're upset at the nature of the money that they're getting. They're expecting and are hoping for just basically bailout money. When what's funny is that companies like Boeing are already partially subsidized by the government, and they're not happy that they aren't getting more and more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you saw the headline. I apologize. I think it was Boeing, but don't quote me on that. There was talk about the possibility that in exchange for dozens of billions of dollars, that the government could get some sort of stake in the company, and the CEO was like, "No, if there's going to be strings like that attached, we don't want the help." Which implies to me, I don't think it's an emergency if you can just be like, nah, keep your $60 billion if you want a 10% share or something. That implies to me that you'd like the help, but you don't exactly need the help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And don't quote me on the Boeing. I think it's Boeing, but I'm not 100% sure. Now let's go to some other numbers. So 25 billion for airline loans. I'm seeing 4 billion for cargo loans, 17 billion for national security loans. Basically, lots of billions. You should understand that. In terms of, because I'm seeing a lot of comments about when are regular people going to get their money, we don't yet know. Just bear that in mind. But the new bill will increase unemployment insurance by $600 per week for 4 months. This money is in addition to what states pay as a base unemployment salary. And so for a period of a few months, you'll get regular unemployment and then an additional amount of money. It wasn't immediately clear to me if that was only for people who were laid off directly related to the coronavirus, which sounds like that could be a bureaucratic nightmare for people to prove that that's why it was. But anyway, if it, and we don't know exactly when this will kick in, but theoretically that will help some people. That helps those who were laid off. It doesn't necessarily help those who didn't have a job. There's a lot of other categories of people that this could leave behind.
Yeah, and they said there's supposed to be some sort of lag time for like a few days and that relief is going to be imminent, but they're not exactly saying when all of these provisions are going to kick in. Are they going to kick in simultaneously? Or checks going to be cut immediately? We're not exactly sure. That all still has to be worked out, but again, I don't have a ton of faith in the people who are implementing this kind of bailout money and how quickly it's going to get to the American people.
Exactly. So that's unemployment. In addition to that, the legislation would include a one-time $1,200 check that would be sent to most adults making $75,000 or less annually, according to their past tax returns. This is that 2018 thing that we've talked about previously. A $500 payment would also be sent to cover every child in qualifying households. And as of right now, at least, that is a one-time thing. So if this ends up being an 18-month problem, budget, because you might not be getting too much money.
Yeah, and that's larger than what the Trump administration initially proposed, which was 1,000 for every individual. But they didn't really specify. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the initial Trump administration proposal specified $75,000 or. And so now it's $1,200, which I guess is fine, but that's different than what Bernie Sanders and Maxine Waters in the House were proposing, with $2,000 for every person, $1,000 for every child. So this is less than that, but at least it's going to provide some temporary relief. But the idea that it's a one-time thing, that is not enough to provide relief for people, especially, and once again, we'll bring it back to how little the Republicans care about large blue, especially in highly populated areas like New York and California. $1,200 doesn't get you a long way, especially if you're unable to make your. It's just not enough.
Yeah, I mean it's like if you do have to pay your rent, like that, the entire thing's gone, and more would already be gone at that point. Some additional numbers. Let's see. We've got $367 billion in loans to small businesses. $150 billion roughly for hospitals, with $100 billion going directly to hospitals, $1 billion to the Indian Health Service, and the rest to purchase of medical equipment. So that is something I don't think that is going to cover the huge amount of medical equipment, both in terms of ventilators, but also personal protective equipment that has been requested. You probably saw the numbers, Emma. I think it was 40,000 ventilators New York is saying that they need. And the Trump administration is saying they sent 4,000. So far, New York has only gotten 400. And so, yeah, it sounds like we're going to need a lot of money. That's one state that now has over 30,000 cases of coronavirus documented.
And the Trump administration is saying that, the GM and Ford, they should start making ventilators, and they're saying, yeah, we'll get right on that, without specifically requiring them to do so, which he can't because of the, I'm forgetting the exact name of the Defense Act that he enacted. You have the power to enforce companies in times of crisis to actually make these types of equipment, and Trump is falling short there and not actually requiring them. He's just, as a PR, saying loudly, I'm getting the auto manufacturers to make ventilators and other medical equipment, when we know now that it's going to take months for them to even set the facilities to do so. So it's just a PR stunt.
Yeah. I mean, look, he already delayed multiple months in the beginning from making more testing kits available, or at least purchasing them, masks and things like that. We could have been gearing up literally months ago. And now, even when he's all mad that people are pointing out that he was slow rolling for literally months, he's not providing any sort of federal guidance on lockdowns. He's just letting states do what they want. Some are locking down, some aren't locking down. And he wants to reverse as much of that in a couple of weeks, which we'll get to. But also, yeah, he's not helping to either organize the distribution of medical equipment, or actually compel companies to start to produce it. So in every way possible, he is still, at this late date, dragging his heels and providing obstacles to addressing this, rather than providing resources and guidance, which is obviously desperately needed. There's multiple states that are already in the middle of a disaster, and lots more coming. He thinks that we're going to be done in a couple of weeks. This thing is still going to be accelerating in a couple of weeks. I did want to also let you know one problem that I have with the bill is right now it includes $400 million to prep for the 2020 election. The GOP had originally proposed $150 million, so they were able to get more than twice as much. The Brennan Center says we need at least $2 billion to prep for it. And so what I love is, how many times have we said X billion dollars in this segment? Billions of dollars of this, billions of dollars of that. They wanted to give $150 million to have an election. The one thing that they're feeling frugal in regards to is our ability to have a general election without exposing more people to coronavirus come November.
But the reason they don't care about providing that funding is because voter suppression is always in their interest. So people coming out less, it always favors the Republicans, because the most likely voters are the Republicans and the older folks and people who are doing this as a part of their patriotic duty and routine, as opposed to unlikely voters, people mobilized to go and vote out the incumbent president. So they don't really care. They can be frugal about the election. Doesn't matter to them.
Yeah. And look, let's talk about one other part of this. So all the headlines about the bill that passed last night say $2 trillion bill, which is obviously a lot. And look, we're in a major emergency. It's a pandemic. We should still note, though, that some things are easily paid for. The money can be conjured up. We know that. But other sorts of things, it's impossible. Let's debate it for another 20 years or whatever. If it's healthcare, it's education, it's protecting our environment, those sorts of things. But the issue is that in all likelihood, this is not a $2 trillion bill. This is a many times more $1 trillion bill. I was reading on the American Prospect, David Dayen, he had an article. Let me read a couple of excerpts. He says the number you're hearing is $500 billion. That's the portion that's going to just directly go the aforementioned slush fund for corporations. He says of that, $75 billion goes to the airline industry and the mysteriously named, quote, businesses critical to national security. The other $425 billion helps capitalize a $4.25 trillion with a T leveraged lending facility at the Federal Reserve. The taxpayer dollars would soak up any losses from that lending program. The loans won't be secret anymore, but the oversight is largely after the fact, without subpoena power, and mainly reduced to writing reports. He calls it a money cannon aimed at CEOs and said it can therefore go to executive compensation or mergers or wholesale purchases of distressed businesses or whatever other financial engineering the accounting department can muster. And once the company returns to health, it can leak out cash to investors and during the loan too in dividends. There's no requirement to keep workers hired. In fact, the necessary provision to boost unemployment insurance for 4 months to 100% of median salary, including furloughed workers, gig workers, and freelancers, means that these companies can fire with relative impunity. And so you take all of that, and if this is the bill that passes, if the House, basically just takes up their wording and they pass it, this is an unprecedented amount of money that is being thrown at corporations with virtually no controls, and the only controls that exist will be after the fact that will be basically impossible to stick. This money could end up going to massive golden parachutes, stock buybacks, all the sorts of stuff that we know have happened in past bailouts that they're promising they're not going to do this time, but there's no actual legal mechanism to make sure that they don't do it.
Yes, asking corporations to just do the right thing, that always works out, doesn't it, John? I mean, there was even Carly Fiorina, I just saw the headline before I came on here, basically saying that she thought the bailout money was too soon and that a lot of these companies could have lasted and that money should have gone directly to constituents. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's exactly what it should have been. I mean, the problem with it is that most people aren't going to read the fine details, and the political opportunism of the Republicans is that they want to get a bill passed right away, and many corporate Democrats as well, to give the appearance of providing relief, and then people figure out in a few weeks' time that relief was not enough for them or their families. It's the appearance of doing something as opposed to doing nothing, more than the substance of what's actually going to be in the bill.
Yeah. I worry, like, everybody's been so frustrated with them not doing anything in the Senate. And obviously Trump is taking like a behind the backseat approach to this, that they're just going to see, hey, something is done. The Republicans and the Democrats are getting together. They're getting along. And what will be lost will be the long-term fallout of this. And the thing is, Bernie Sanders, obviously, he's been raising from the very beginning. One of his 3 principles for dealing with this was that there needs to be a centralized authority that will be a check on corporate profiteering, price gouging, but also corruption that will come out of the bailout. And I haven't seen anything like that. I mean, the very minor efforts in this, the Inspector General and that panel, like, they are going to end up making off with hundreds of billions of dollars, potentially trillions of dollars by the time this is done. And I know how this works. In a couple of years, maybe a year, there's gonna be a great write-up on it. Maybe in the Center for, Public Integrity or something like that, or The Intercept will do it, and we'll talk about it. And no one will go to jail. The money won't be gotten back. It'll just be a bit of news. Like, hey, what do you know? They made off with trillions during this thing, but don't talk about Medicare for all. Don't talk about a Green New Deal. Couldn't possibly afford it.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what we've seen in this crisis, is that we do have reserves of money that can make things happen for regular Americans, but we just choose not to. So when you have a crisis like this, you test the boundaries of what is possible in government, and everyone's beginning to realize, oh, wait, actually, they could provide all of these things for the American people. We can pay for it. Yeah. And I think that's what we're seeing.
And that's why later on the show, we're going to have some of the celebrities that are turning into socialist revolutionaries before our very eyes. And so we're going to have that for you as well. I wanted to read just a couple of quick super chats. Mark Iadarola says, happy birthday, John. I'm going to assume that is a fake name.
John, I'm just going to pop off for like 1 minute.
Okay. You'll be back soon.
Yeah.
And let's see. We've got Kerberos Terminal says, have you heard Biden is asking his donors who he should pick for VP? They recommend Harris or Klobuchar. His donors don't seem to like the idea of Warren or Abrams. I hadn't seen specifically what we're referring to there, but I'm sure that many people in the Biden orbit probably have Harris as their number one. I find that much more likely than Klobuchar at this point. I would say that's probably, like, if I had to put my money somewhere, it would be on Harris. Kevin Hudson says, love that shirt, John. Thank you. I'm just trying to brighten things up just a little bit. It can't be black t-shirts every day. Let's see. They do not have a great system for seeing the super chats here. If I miss one, I do apologize. I try to read them all, but it's not always possible. John O'Shea says, happy birthday with a cake. Thank you. It's not my birthday, but thank you. Kerberos Terminal says, have you heard Biden is... Oh, thank you. So, I did see the other message. Thank you. Also, did you hear Klobuchar's husband has COVID-19? Yes, we actually talked about that on the show yesterday. So, obviously, very sad there. And because I'm not a broken human being like Donald Trump, I can say that and actually mean it rather than joking about wanting people to get coronavirus. Emma, did you see Trump's Mitt Romney tweet?
I did. Are we going to talk about that or just informally?
I mean, what are your thoughts?
He's an expert troll. He's a despicable person.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that plays for a lot of people. I think it does.
Yeah, look, I obviously I'm not surprised. He's been doing this sort of thing literally forever. It's what his fans expect and what they like. But like I tweeted, okay, if you're a Trump fan, like someday these filet-o fish are going to catch up to him and he's going to kick the bucket and a lot of people are going to be cheering on social media and you're going to be really offended at how mean people are being. Well, I'm not saying it justifies it, but you need to understand that Donald Trump has been doing that sort of thing in regards to his enemies for his entire life. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. With that, why don't we jump into our next subject? Okay. Donald Trump's plan to just move past coronavirus as if it's been solved in the next few weeks, that is continuing along, and now we even have a potential date. According to yesterday's press conference, he's interested in restarting everything on Easter. Here he is making this announcement.
Ultimately, the goal is to ease the guidelines and open things up to very large sections of our country as we near the end of our historic battle with the invisible enemy. It'll go on for a while, but we win. We'll win. I said earlier today that I hope we can do this by Easter. I think that would be a great thing for our country, and we're all working very hard to make that a reality. We'll be meeting with a lot of people to see if it can be done. Easter is a very special day for many reasons. For me, for a lot of our friends, that's a very special day. And what a great timeline this would be. Easter is our timeline. What a great timeline that would be.
Okay, so there, I'm assuming my mic's back on. Easter, it's a very special day for him because he totally is an actual Christian who totally believes in God. That's a true thing that is true. But anyway, he said in that video, as we near the end of our war with our invisible enemy, it's been long, but we win. We win. First of all, he's implying that he's been fighting it for a long time. He's declaring that we're about to be done. This seems like madness to me. Emma, what are your thoughts?
Well, 60% of Americans disagree with you, but yeah,
we're gonna get to
that. There's something that he's trying to tap into, which is everyone has this desire to return to normalcy. So when you have the president basically saying, oh, you can see the horizon, we're close to the end, that plays well politically, but in reality, it's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. And again, I've made this point to you off air. Easter, it changes every year, and I forget what day it is, so I don't even know when he's talking about. It could be tomorrow, and it could be at the end of next month.
So I did some fact checking. It turns out it is Sunday, April 12th.
Okay.
So, but that's just like a couple weeks away, really. Like 3 weeks away.
Do you think Jesus is going to rise again, or is he just going to stay in self-isolation?
If I were him, oh my god, that's a pretty good reference. Look at you. You know more about the Bible than Donald Trump does, even though it's a very special day to him. So look, if that date seems arbitrary, that is only because it's 100% arbitrary, and that will become clear in this next video where he's asked by Caitlin Collins about what exactly it was that led to that date being chosen. Let's watch.
Mr. President, you just reiterated that you hope to have the country reopened by Easter. You said earlier you would like to see churches packed on that day. My question is, you have two doctors on stage with you. Have either of them told you that's a realistic timeline?
I think we're looking at a timeline. We're discussing it. We had a very good meeting today. If you add it all up, that's probably 9 days plus another 2.5 weeks. It's a period of time that's longer than the original 2 weeks. So we're going to look at it. We'll only do it if it's good, and maybe we do sections of the country. We do large sections of the country. They could be too. But we're very much in touch with Tony and with Deborah on everything we're doing.
Who suggested
I just thought it was a beautiful time. To be a beautiful time, a beautiful timeline.
So that was
It's a
based
great
on any
day.
of the data?
It was based on a certain level of weeks from the time we started.
Okay, make sure that's good. He said, she said, what doctor's advice were you using to establish this timeline? And he says, well, we're working on a timeline. And then asked what it was that led to that date. He said, it's a beautiful time, a beautiful time, a beautiful timeline, a beautiful day. That's why he might tell states around the country to go back to normal, and Republican governors will 100% listen to whatever he says, no matter the human cost.
A beautiful timeline was the alternate title for Interstellar. Fun fact.
Was it really?
No.
Oh, okay. Anything to improve that movie. But anyway, yeah.
Oh, I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, hey, we agree on something in pop culture as of 10 years ago. Anyway, so look, he said, let's go to this. He said he'd like to see, quote, this is amazing. He'd like to see churches packed full of people for Easter.
Oh my God.
But that a chill runs up your spine, and it's not just a symptom. It's but that the timeline wasn't based on data indicating the public health risk could be gone by then. Rather, the president said it just thought it was a beautiful time. Trump said he would listen to the advice of his top health officials. So it's not just that he wants to restart things, but he immediately, I want to see crowds. I can't stand not seeing crowds of people. And I just want to say this. I'm terrible at making predictions. We are still going to, in all likelihood, in 3 weeks, the number of cases will still be increasing on a day-to-day basis. In many of these places that he's going to say you should be crowding into places of worship to maximally spread coronavirus to each other, we're still going to be seeing more and more people. Like, we won't have reached, I think New York, Cuomo was just saying, like, the peak need time is going to be like April 21st, he thinks. So possibly a week after Trump tells everyone to go back to GameStop or whatever, we could still see a need for tens of thousands of ventilators in the New York City area alone.
Exactly. And I mean, we could see some gains because everyone is self-isolating, but when you have the president on TV, who a majority of Americans agree is doing a good job, saying that it will be over in that week's time, that's just not the reality. So we could see a little bit of plateauing and then another spike, which is so much worse. And, like, I get that this is a large country and, everyone's not going to be paying attention and listening, but what could, and this isn't China. We are living really in an economy, not in a society, not saying that China's society is great. They at least feel a sense of fealty to their other fellow citizens, to what their government says. They're going to pay attention. They were able to actually curb this because they listened to what the government says. I mean, I know I'm rambling a little bit, but when you have the head of the government here basically saying, oh yeah, go ahead, go back to work, do whatever you need to do, people are going to pay attention because that's the natural inclination of our society. Everyone is out for themselves. We fetishize individualism. And so once you get the go-ahead, that's what's going to happen. And it's just going to get worse and worse.
Yeah. Yeah. There are going to be so many people at that point. They're going to be just looking for someone to tell them that things are going back to normal because they're going to be going stir crazy. And honestly, there are still so many states that haven't done any sort of lockdowns, that things are still going normal. There should be, not only should we not be talking about on Easter, just, everybody head to the movies. Isn't there a new Marvel movie coming out? Like, let's go see Black Widow. But that multiple states should be told right now, you need to institute the same sort of social distancing, the same sort of, safety at home, a stay-at-home order. And he's not doing that. And, anyway, here's another issue. If you're like a Trump fan and you're hearing Trump say, we've almost beaten our hidden enemy, that message is being reinforced by the other people that you have, unfortunately and tragically, chosen to trust, like Glenn Beck, who's been telling you he'd rather die than kill the country. This is the guy who did, I don't know how many shows about death panels in the ACA, now thinks older people just might have to die to not kill the country. Let's see. Breitbart has an article on why Trump is right to reopen the economy. So if you go there, you're primed to think Easter's a good time. We've got Dennis Prager saying that attitude that the only value is saving a life, that attitude leads to appeasement. No one can die, then it's not a war. Yeah, but under your logic, if it's a war, it's one that he is surrendering on very quickly. He was willing to go at it. It's been like a week, basically, since California lockdown, and he's already like, come on, I'm getting bored. Can we just go back to the way things were?
I know. Aren't you supposed to be Mr. Tough Guy? You just can't watch another Netflix film and you want to surrender in this war. I mean, again, like, what are the casualties? Who are we fighting? We're fighting, yes, the coronavirus, but you're saying that capitalism is the one that has to win in the end? No, it's human. Yeah. It's human life. That's the war that's being fought. And so to say that this is all to save the country, no, this is to save your pocketbooks. It's to save industry. It's to save the notion this economy can sustain itself, by the way. And doesn't this show how precarious our entire economy is? We're talking about how precarious our healthcare system is. Perhaps there could be some sort of recognition that we could make the economy more foolproof. We should be making the economy more foolproof. Mm-hmm. But instead, they just want to return to the system that is and save that. I hate the false equivalent of the country and the economy and their portfolios. It's not the same thing. The country is made up of individuals and people. It's not made up of stocks and bonds. And that's what we should be focusing on, not just this paper tiger of an economy.
Yeah. Yeah. If the system requires the sacrifice of millions of elderly Americans to restart it, it does not deserve to be restarted. Like and that's why I'm glad that we're going to be talking later on about how people are sort of waking up to some of the fundamental issues with the system that the coronavirus has not created but has revealed, is that we need to solve this problem, but we can also set ourselves up to, in doing so, solve a lot of problems that we had prior to COVID-19, that we should not go back to the way things were, because the way things were horrific in their own way. It was a more hidden way. It wasn't talked about necessarily. It didn't drive headlines, but people were dying needlessly long before COVID-19. And the same solutions that could get us through this pandemic and the pandemic that is going to come after it can also solve with all the people who, because they don't have access to health insurance, they've gone medically bankrupt, people who are suffering with chronic conditions like heart disease, diabetes, those sorts of things, they can be helped and protected too. And I hope coming out of this that people are awakened to some of these realities. Okay,
Same here.
Thank you. So let's read a couple of these super chats to catch up on that. Kerberos Terminal says, "Do you think?"
And with that, John, I know that this is awkward. I'm just gonna pop out and run to the restroom.
Okay, thank you. We'll see in a few.
Should I not say that on the stream? I don't really
too late.
care.
It's live. No,
it's informal.
I doubt you mind. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll see you in a few. Okay, so Kerberos Terminal says, "Do you think Warren's bill for giving resources to Native Americans from the national stockpile will pass?" I apologize. I don't actually know what sort of the prospective whip count on that is. I hope that some aspects of it have been wrapped up in this massive bill, the details of which we're only starting to learn now. But I hope so, because that's yet another community or set of communities that's going to be absolutely devastated by this. Little Yumper says, "Johnny and the Vig returns." Thank you, Little Yumper. I'm glad to have her back on. We'd like to have her on as much as possible. And let's see. Super chat from Sans Cipher McDowell says, "Relief proposal from Rashida Tlaib. It's creative and universally takes care of everyone, including expats, undocumented, indigenous communities. It's an expansion on Maxine Waters' proposal." Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, and I will say that, look, Bernie Sanders has 100% stepped up. I think AOC's been doing some good stuff, but Rashida Tlaib, if you haven't been watching, she has been an absolute superstar. Not only teaming up with some of these other groups, taking part in the virtual town halls with Bernie Sanders and things like that, but she has been nonstop go, trying to make this relief effort expedited, effective, and all-encompassing to make sure that people aren't left behind. If Rashida Tlaib had been consulted on that Senate bill, it would obviously look very different. And, she deserves our support for the way that she's supporting us during this. Name withheld says, "Emma's brilliant." I will try to pass on that message to her when she comes back, but I do appreciate it. Giving an update on what's coming on. Hold on one sec. Kerberos says, what do you think about how Rep Katie Porter got free testing? Well, look, I want everyone to get free testing. I don't know. Again, I don't know the details on that. I'm assuming that if you are a government, if you're an elected representative in DC who interact with some of these others who are diagnosed with it, then yeah, you probably did get it. And later on the show, we're going to be talking about Cardi B discusses this topic, not about Katie Porter specifically, but we will be talking about the incredibly inequitable distribution of testing, not just in terms of being able to get it and having it be free, but getting your results in a quick fashion as well. For everybody who's asking questions about the shirt, it is not candy corn, although I love that idea. No, it is pineapples. This is one of the shirts that I bought for my trip to Hawaii last year, where I got engaged. And I've just been wearing like black TYT t-shirts, I guess, on stream. And I felt like, no, come on, let's brighten things up. Let's fruit things up a bit. Anyway, so thank you everybody who's already here. A lot of viewers currently. We got more stories we're going to be coming back to in just a couple of minutes. If you haven't already hit the like button, please do that. For those of you who might be in your first stream, and I saw a few people mentioning that, you're going to want to subscribe to the Damage Report. You're going to want to follow it and me on Twitter, because we give you like a half-hour heads up on the live streams, which we're going to try to have at the same time. 10 a.m. Pacific, I believe that's 1 p.m. Eastern each day. Extra content is being filmed. It's not always going to be live, but like, for instance, we had Nabila Islam, who's a candidate in Georgia's 7th district, on yesterday. That interview is now up on the channel, so you can go take a look at that. A little bit later on the show, we're going to be talking about how Trump's approval rating is weathering the storm. We're going to update you on Joe Biden, some of his recent media appearances, which is just about the most depressing thing that I've seen in a while. And then how certain celebrities are responding to the pandemic. And with that, Emma, I did want to let you know that there was a name withheld super chat saying Emma is brilliant.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm like slightly sick, and I don't think it's coronavirus. I really don't. So my mind's like rambling a bit when I'm talking, and I appreciate that positive reinforcement, because I don't think I sound too great right now.
I mean, you seem pretty good to me, but I got like a really bad headache for like 2 days, and like everyone, I was thinking, oh my god, do I have it? But no, I think I'm
like
good.
Quick story, because I know this is informal. I'm in my mom's house, and there was a renovation being done, and so it's so dusty, and I just broke out in an insane rash on my face. And I was just like, and my breath feels hot. I'm like, this is like either like the coronavirus manifesting itself in a really weird way with me, or I'm just like being a hypochondriac. And I think it's more of the latter. I'm feeling better today, though.
It could be dust, could be mites. I don't know. I've been watching a lot of House recently, and so I'm going to try to refrain from diagnosing you with something right now.
Okay, good.
Let's see. Kerberos Terminal says, will Emma Vigeland be doing more videos as well? You're doing videos for Rebel HQ, right?
I am. The reason I haven't done as much is because of what I just said. I've been feeling like crap.
Yeah, understandable.
But I'm working on it. I'm working on it, guys.
Lil Yumper says, could a silver lining of this pandemic be that primary voters see how Bernie handles this pandemic compared to Biden and therefore sway a vote? Hold thoughts on that. That's going to be in 2 topics. We will talk about that. Katie Evans says he just wants to go golfing. Yeah, he probably hates that. Although he can probably still go golfing. You social distance while golfing. James says, pineapple shirt today. Does that mean you'll wear a pizza shirt tomorrow? I'll work on it. I have a boats shirt. And Jim, thank you for your super chat as well. With that, why don't we jump back into the news, Emma?
Sounds great.
Okay. Donald Trump's response to coronavirus has been, in my view, horrible. It's been slow and begrudging and lacking in, any sort of scientific understanding or curiosity. It has definitely increased the chance that his devoted followers will contract and potentially die from coronavirus because they unfortunately trust him and he is not trustworthy. Trusting Donald Trump, as always, can potentially get you killed. But that does not mean that his response is really hurting himself. Recently, I saw this in Gallup. His approval rating is back up to 49%, just as it was before coronavirus. So if this is hurting him, it's not really clear. You can even see here, by the way, that over the past few weeks, Republicans support him 1 point more. Independents have jumped up by 8 points. Even Democrats have his approval rating in the Democrats has nearly doubled. And what has he done to deserve this? He's had those rambling, insane press conferences. It's maddening, Emma.
I understand, but this is why it makes Joe Biden's absence from the conversation so much more egregious. So much of politics is just being visible and getting airtime. You see this with Andrew Cuomo. The whole country's obsessed with Andrew Cuomo now. Oh, Andrew Cuomo, our savior, Andrew Cuomo.
I saw an article saying, I think I'm in love with Cuomo.
I saw that too. And I saw someone, I saw someone close to me repost that unironically.
Maybe it was just deep irony.
Yeah,
Probably
no. Yeah. Well, anyway, so my point is just that Trump has been very visible. Andrew Cuomo has been very visible. And that is the reasoning behind I think Trump's, approval rating. 60% of Americans, according to Beck, say that he's been doing a good job and they approve of his job with the coronavirus when he is undoubtedly things just worse. So, and made the United States ill prepared to deal with it, and is now advocating for people to go out in public in a very short amount of time, which is just going to worsen the problem. So just being on television, people are, desperate for news. They're looking up the coronavirus, COVID-19, Googling it, and they see Trump, looking very official up there on the podium and talking and giving people hope, even though it's false hope, saying things are going to go back to normal. They feel like, okay, that's what I want. I want things to go back to normal. And they think he looks presidential. They're rallying behind the president in the time of crisis. We saw Bush's popularity soar after 9/11.
Yeah.
This is not the same thing. But what I've been saying is that this could be Trump's Iraq war in a sense, because, look, I don't think Biden is a strong candidate. And I think that there are a lot of parallels to 2020 to 2004, when Bush ran against an uninspiring centrist in John Kerry and won narrow. And Kerry didn't have cognitive decline, apparently, or apparent cognitive decline either. And Trump's approval rating is just going up in this pandemic, and this is going to be at the forefront of every voter's minds in November. And I could definitely see it going down that way with Trump getting reelected as an incumbent, because his approval rating went up because he was able to appear presidential to people, and Biden not really having an inspiring message to be.
Yeah, that's my fear. I know a lot of people early on were saying, well, this is it for Trump. I mean, he's doing a terrible job, but that's by no means a guarantee. I mean, first of all, people don't necessarily know what he's doing. I mean, 27% of Democrats think he's doing a good job. The majority of independents think he's doing a good job, specifically on this issue, which is madness. But they do trust him, and when he stands up there and he pretends that some drug that they're going to test for the next year that might help a little bit with the symptoms is a cure, or that a vaccine is coming out in a month, then he knows what he's doing. It's just brand management. It's selling a product that doesn't exist, but it gets people excited about your brand, and that's what he's doing. And he'll say how many lies has he told? Everybody expected, 3 weeks ago, he gave a press conference saying that in the very near future, Google's going to have a website, and Walmart and Target are going to be testing you for coronavirus through drive-through things in their parking lots. How many people watching this stream have gone through one of those drive-through testing things? Has that happened? Does that exist? No. But everybody felt better temporarily, and so his numbers went up. And here's the thing. So I said at the beginning, trusting Donald Trump could get you killed. Take a look at this poll. So this is Ali Vale. She tweeted this out. This is CBS YouGov. Who do you trust for coronavirus info? If you're a Democrat, 87% of you trust the CDC, 75% trust your governor, 72% trust the national media, and then 72% friends and family. I think that's probably a bad call. Don't do that. 44% religious leaders, again, 14% Trump. For Republicans, 90% trust Trump, more than trust the CDC. And national media is at 13%. So Trump and the national media basically swap spots depending on what party you're in. So all these Trump supporters, millions and millions and millions of Americans, they believe that anything they hear about coronavirus on the media is likely to be a lie. It's still just a hoax. It's a weapon being used against Trump. And if Trump says we've got a vaccine, if he says, oh no, we don't need to use, our emergency powers to force companies to produce ventilators, it's just going to be fine, they will trust him on that.
I think that figure about the media is really key, because it has a counter effect when the media is constantly talking about how terrible Trump is doing in many aspects. But it's heightened in this coronavirus pandemic because people want to believe that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that things are going to go back to normal very soon. So when you have a president giving them that false hope, they're naturally more inclined to believe him than they are the media who's screaming from the rooftop saying no, 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 no. And when they're covering it nonstop and they're covering Trump negatively nonstop, people have a natural reflexive reaction to that, being like, that can't be, I don't think he's doing that bad, right? And so his numbers go up, and the media appears to be less trustworthy, and the media already has been a much maligned institution in the United States for a really long time, and it doesn't help that the president screams fake news on a regular.
Yeah. Don't listen to Trump, people. I'm seeing someone just commented and I checked it, at Rancho Palos Verdes in California. 6 people at a Trump golf club at a birthday party got coronavirus. Now that doesn't mean that they're Trump supporters just because they go to a Trump golf club, but it's possible that they trusted him. We don't know. Well, we'll find out.
It's more likely than not. I can't imagine anyone who's anti-Trump going to a Trump property at this point.
Yeah, I would not. Unlike Trump, I actually feel bad for those people. I feel bad for everyone that has trusted him and has gotten coronavirus as a result of it. Just really, really fast before we move on, I am curious, he's lying about vaccine, he's lying about basically every part of this, but the problem is that eventually, reality could catch up to him. If he does order people to go back to about their business or whatever, and the case numbers jump up into the hundreds of thousands and tens of thousands start dying, at that point, do you think that is what triggers some Trump supporters to realize that he was lying, or will the master of branding be able to find some way out?
Again, he is the master of branding, and that's what's so crazy, and marketing. And so when he constantly says things are beautiful and great and wonderful, that penetrates some people's minds, right? So who knows? I mean, can you repeat the question, John? I'm sorry.
No, so basically I was saying we're worried about what could develop. And so far, his lack of response to that, or lack of a serious response, hasn't hurt him in terms of the approval ratings. But if the doctors are right, and if the numbers do explode, and we do see tens of thousands or more Americans dying, will the reality of that be undeniable at some point for Trump fans, the people who've given him a benefit of the doubt, when they see 100,000 people have died, hypothetically, it's just a hypothetical, will that be enough to finally break through to them? Or do you think they'll find some way around it?
I don't think that'll be enough. And I think that once mass deaths start happening, unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of people who say, oh, they were old. Oh, what could have been done? Nothing could have been done. It's so bad everywhere. And what are we going to do? Tank the economy? I genuinely think that's going to be a lot of people's reactions. Not enough people, but a lot of people.
Jeez. Yeah. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. Okay, really fast. Kerberos Terminal says, do you think... Wait. Oh, hold on. There's been a lot of super chats. Whew. Do you think we should redo the last set of primaries with absentee ballots, regardless of who it would benefit? Look, I have a huge issue with the last set of primaries. I don't think they're going to do that. I think there's zero chance that they're going to do that. But I can't say that I have faith in the results, because I'm sure lots and lots of people who would have voted otherwise didn't, despite what the DNC told them to do.
Yeah.
Wellington Smith says, Andrew Cuomo is today's Rudy Giuliani of 19 years ago. He's not a hero. He's just there. I would say, look, again, like Emma, I'm not a huge Andrew Cuomo fan or anything, far from it. It seems like he's taking it seriously. He's not just posing on rubble or whatever. But I'm not an expert on New York politics.
he's competent, and he's like kind of an autocrat. So when a pandemic like this happens, someone who's just like unilaterally action and who's generally on the right side and understands science, it's helpful.
Mm.
He's a strong man himself, and so he's just kind of doing what needs to be done. So he is doing a good job. Doesn't mean he's a good guy.
Yeah. TXX says, thank you for all you do. Love from the UK waves. Thank you. Keep yourself safe. UK is definitely having a rough time too. Kerbro says, what is Emma Viglin's opinion on redoing primaries?
It'll never happen. Wish they would. But also, it doesn't seem like the outcomes in Florida, Arizona, and Illinois would have been. So
I think it would have been closer, but yeah, I don't think it would have been flipped.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Richardson, thank you. Adam just sent in Emma with a heart. That's very nice of you for Emma.
Very nice. Thank you for the love.
Steve Snyder wants you to take care of yourself, Emma. You're precious cargo.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
nice.
know what's going on with me. I took my temperature. I don't have a fever. So I feel like I'm okay, but I'm just paranoid right now, you know?
Yeah, well, just stay isolated to the extent that you can. I didn't leave my house yesterday, so it was like most days for me. But anyway, with that, why don't we jump into one of the most depressing things to talk about these days, our presumptive nominee.
Oh, God.
After days of effectively hiding, Joe Biden has returned, and he started doing media appearances, and I'm not sure how long that's going to continue because there's been some issues with him. I want to show you bits of these recent appearances. One with Nicole Wallace on ABC. Take a look at this.
Because if we lose them, we are in real trouble. We should be making those masks. We should be moving on those ventilators. We can do that. Why doesn't he just act like a president? That's a stupid way to say it.
You know, Donald Trump was asked on...
Sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I probably best I don't.
All right, let me ask you this, Donald.
I just can't figure the guy. I don't know. It's like watching a yo-yo. I shouldn't have said it that way. It's like watching.
It feels that way. I want to ask. That's okay. I want to.
We have never failed to respond to a crisis as a people. And I tell you what, I'm so darn proud. And those poor people who have lost, anyway.
Okay, so that was 3 little bits there of what might be the most awkward interview I think I've ever seen in my life. I don't want to be an a-hole about it, and I like to think that I'm pretty reasonable, but I don't know what's going on with any of that. It doesn't seem like Nicole Wallace. You could tell she was visibly uncomfortable at what she was experiencing. And I don't know at this point what we're supposed to say. We're supposed to pretend that there's not something clearly wrong. Not just with his response, but literally with his ability to comport himself through an interview. That was weird and like demonstrably, visibly unlike what we've seen out of Joe Biden just a few years ago.
And the way he trails off and just goes, anyway. Like he can start sentences, but he can't complete. And you saw it in the way Nicole Wallace was interacting with him. It was like she was trying to entertain and be sweet, like some older man that she's meeting at like a family gathering or her in-laws or something like that, as opposed to a presidential candidate. They should be like, what are you talking about? What are you saying? Ridiculous that the media 6 months ago was talking about Biden's apparent and obvious cognitive decline. And now we're pretending like it doesn't exist because he's the presumptive nominee. The Trumpies, they're not going to do that. They're going to hammer him on it over and over again. And it's like this part is 2016 all over again, where all of us saw the flaw with Hillary Clinton and how unappealing she was and how unlikable she was in many ways. And we're all seeing the same thing with Biden's cognitive decline, and yet the Democratic establishment and the resistance base on Twitter and online, and Biden fans are pretending like it doesn't exist and asking the rest of the world to do that, and the country's not going to do it. I mean, again, I couldn't get over when I look up clips for work and things, when I just type Biden in, Alzheimer's is the top search, or sister, wife, or all of his gaffes, or corn pop, you know?
Yeah.
Like, policy would, if he had strong policies and a strong vision for this country, it could potentially overcome. But when that's the number one image that sticks out in people's mind, a rambling guy who doesn't seem to make sense anymore, that's electoral kryptonite. That's the death wish. That's terrible. And Biden is going to go on stage with Trump if he's the nominee, which it seems like he's likely going to be. And Trump's going to bully him like he did with Hillary Clinton. Remember when Hillary said, "I'm just so glad," in one of the debates to Trump, "I'm just so glad that someone like you isn't in charge of the Justice Department." And Trump quickly just goes, "Yeah, because you'd be in jail." Walk-off moment.
Yeah.
Biden's not going to be able to withstand that. Trump's going to bully him, and it's effective.
Yeah, Biden was having trouble with Nicole Wallace, who, like, your analogy was perfect. She was trying to, like, carry him along through this thing. And, you know, as a progressive, I have empathy. I feel bad for him. I don't think he should be put in this position. I mean, or put himself in this position. He shouldn't be running for an office right now. He should, like, he needs to project strength. He needs to contrast himself with Donald Trump right now, and he is literally incapable of doing that, even when not sitting across from him. And then he says things like this: "I have not been criticizing the president, but I've been pointing out where there is disagreement on how to proceed. This is not about Democrat or Republican. This is not about what your party is. It's about getting through this. The American people don't want us in a political fight, and I want no part of a political fight either." Here's the thing. I don't think he wants any part of any fight, because he's going to have trouble with it. But we're 100% in a political fight, because in D.C. right now, we're trying to figure out how to respond to this. And Trump is teeing us up to potentially get millions of people killed. It is 100% going to be the defining issue in this election. And it's one that he seems to have very little interest in engaging in, more than just the occasional comment in a little interview. He's the presumptive nominee, supposedly. That's what they want you to believe, and he's not in a position in government to actually do anything. So his public appearances, that is what he can control. That's what he can do. And right now, it is going absolutely horribly for him. And we are lucky in this moment, like in a primary where we have two candidates, where we have a case that demonstrates in every way it's possible to demonstrate who they are, how they would respond to issues in real time, what vision they have for this world. And people are getting that. Bernie Sanders is having these live streams that millions of people are tapping into, where he's bringing on doctors and elected representatives. He is showing leadership, not just in terms of being able to coordinate, but also his own personal vision for how we deal with coronavirus. And Joe Biden he's stumbling through View interviews. It's so depressing to watch, and to see that this guy is likely to be on the ballot in November.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Now, really fast, not everyone agrees with us. Look at these responses. So this is from Matt Iglesias. "The left on Joe Biden. This restaurant's food is bad, and the portions are too small." So, like, he thinks it's hypocritical of us to say, "Where is Biden?" And then when Biden comes, we say his response is clownish. How about talk into a camera and seem competent? That doesn't seem like too much to ask necessarily.
The left, I don't know anyone on the left that doesn't want Joe Biden to win if he's the nominee in November. But pretending that these problems don't exist isn't going to make them go away. You have to call them out, because then maybe the campaign can respond, or just to make sure that people realize this is going to be an issue and perhaps address it. You know, just saying, "Oh no, I'm covering my eyes," that doesn't.
It doesn't solve it. No.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that we're going a little bit over. Let's just do one more video, because I want to end on a bit of a fun note, and we don't often get a chance to talk about Cardi B. So why don't we do that? You've probably noticed that if you're feeling symptomatic in regards to COVID-19, you might have a very hard time getting tested. And even if you do, you might end up spending a lot of money. But not everybody is experiencing those sorts of issues. Cardi B noticed that as well, and so she posted a video where she broke it down.
And I really want to let these celebrities know, I really why the confusion that the general public have, right? And the questionings that the general public have. Because if number 45 is getting on a podium saying, hey, listen, if you do not have any symptoms of the coronavirus, which is coughing, fever, and whatsoever, etc., do not get tested, because we don't have enough testes to test everybody. But if a celebrity is saying, hey, listen, I don't have no symptoms, I'm feeling good, I feel healthy, I don't feel like nothing, but I went and got tested and I'm positive for the coronavirus, that caused confusion. That made people be like, well, wait a minute now, I don't have no symptoms, but I know I went out this and that day, I might just have it. I'm scared because I'm around my kid, I'm around my grandparent. What should I do? And let me tell you something. The general public, people that work regular jobs, people that get regular paychecks, the middle class, the, poor, whatever the crap, they're not getting treated like the high, the ones that appear, like celebrities and everything. They're not getting their coronavirus results the next day. That's one. And on top of that, a lot of celebrities, y'all have the luxury to pay $34,000 or whatever the it costs to get tested and get treated. A lot of these people, they don't have that money.
Couldn't agree more with her. They're getting easy, casual access to the testing. They don't have to worry about being billed, $35,000. Cardi B might not be the hero we deserve, but she's the hero we need. Something like that. I don't know what the expression is. But I love or both. I don't know. I don't remember. I think it's The Watchmen or something. Anyway, but
that's the
Batman?
Dark Knight. John.
Is it Batman? I said Batman before you said that. I know. Don't get your DC all over me. But anyway, no, I love that she's out there. And really fast, we're not going to go into detail, but like Britney Spears is like posting on Instagram with triple roses about...
She doesn't know what that is.
She knows she is a DSA member. And Fran Drescher tweeted, I agree, capitalism has become another word for ruling class elite. When profit is at the expense of all things of true value, we got a problem. Like
I believe the nanny.
Nannies rise up.
I don't believe Britney Spears. I mean, I follow her on Instagram, and some of those posts they're just, I hope she's doing all right.
I hope so too. I honestly don't know anything about her, but look, this is a moment. People need to understand what's happening, where we're at, and also where we were at if they weren't paying attention. And look, if Cardi B is going to be one of the messengers around that, I think that certainly is helpful.
Well, Cardi B is has real populist instincts. We've seen this with her support of Bernie Sanders and just her very frank and honest assessments and accurate assessments about the healthcare system, about the tax system, about inequality. Cardi B is actually a legit person. She's not a celebrity that completely lost her sense of self or forgot where she's come from. And she knows that a lot of where she's come from, it's political. It's not just, giving homage to being from the Bronx or coming from a working class background. She knows that means that you have to support policies and movements that would be beneficial to all of her family and friends from where she grew up.
Yeah. I also just wanted to briefly mention that you might have seen Greta Thunberg posted on Instagram that she and a member of her family believe that they were infected with coronavirus. She's feeling much better, but she was sending out a message saying that people, even if they're young and they're not personally experiencing symptoms, they need to watch out about potentially spreading it to people who are in higher risk groups. So, we don't focus a lot on the experience of celebrities on this show, but some of them are very helpful in this and in other areas, like Greta has always been with the climate crisis. And so, obviously we hope that she and her family gets through it just fine. Some celebrities have been talking about how social distancing is unnecessary. I think it was the Underworld's actress. Not helpful. We need more Danny DeVitos and less of that sort of thing, basically.
We need more Danny DeVitos in regular life too. He is a national treasure.
He is. Okay, so super fast before we end, Lonely Soul said, feel better, Emma. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
I saw a comment from Ginger Red Shoes who said that whole interview with Joe was like Hagrid. I shouldn't have said that. I should not have said that.
Oh my God, yeah.
That is true.
Someone's been watching the Sci-Fi Channel's complete and other, constant reruns of Harry Potter movies. Like
On the Sci-Fi Channel, they're doing marathons of Harry Potter. That's funny. Okay, I gotta start watching that. Cyrus says, thank you for always bringing us up-to-date information. Thank you. Kevin, appreciate your comment about the shirt. Name Withheld says, oh boy, I can see Biden walking off stage while debating Trump and saying, forget it. I can't rule it out. Cannot rule it out. Anyway, thank you, Emma. Great to have you on. I hope you're staying safe. You're obviously in one of the hot spots over there, over on the East Coast. So
thanks.
Keep yourself safe.
No, you too.
Thank you. And hopefully we can have you back on very soon. Everybody who's been watching at home, thank you so much for supporting us. Whether you're just watching, you're sharing the stream, you're sending in super chats, becoming a member at tyt.com/join, subscribe to the channel. All of these things are helping us to get through this. We're going to try to keep broadcasting as much as we can, both to keep you informed, but also entertained. We are all of us, you can see from Emma's attic, we're isolated the same way you are, but that doesn't mean that we can't talk to each other and help each other get through this. So thank you for all of your support. Emma, stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. Bye, guys.